Hi, this is Casey Newman. This is my Module 5, Understanding My Community. And this was actually a little bit more difficult for me than for some people, just because since I do teach at a virtual school, we are open to all students in the state of Kansas, grades 7 through 12. So we serve many different communities, but we are based out of Manhattan, and our students get credit through Manhattan High School. So I've chose Manhattan, Kansas as my community to explore for this project. When you think of Manhattan, you think of the Little Apple, you think of K-State. So K-State, obviously known for the university, education, very strong there, vet med, and agriculture and engineering. All very good programs, but you can't say K-State without saying football. So big football town, and in the fall, that's generally what people do. But we are also very close to Fort Riley, so we have a lot of military presence and military families. In general, I would say Manhattan is middle to upper middle class. We are not as conservative as some areas, but we're not as liberal as, say, Lawrence. So I would say that politically it's pretty moderate. A lot of students and a lot of young families as well. And as far as religion goes, the majority of people are Christian, although there are other denominations as well. There is a mosque, and I think there is a synagogue as well in Manhattan. Now, if you went to K-State, you know that it was a tradition to go to Aggieville, and so local bars and restaurants down there. Downtown has also been revitalized with some new buildings and some local restaurants, and of course the mall. So those are all favorites of Manhattan. Socially, I feel that race and religion, those don't really matter that much in Manhattan. It all comes down to money. And if you have money, then you're one of those in the upper tier. So that's just life, I guess. The west side of town is considered the nicer part of town. Colbert Hills Golf Course is out there, and along with it some mansions and some mini mansions as well. So 52,000 is the approximate population. 48% female, 52% male, majority white, but we definitely see an increasing number of Hispanic population and Asian population as well, mostly based upon the university, and then about 6% African American. Median income about 42,000, and the median home price 180,000. So our proximity to K-State and Fort Riley is nice, but it certainly drives up housing. And then the main languages are English and Spanish, although with the university you get a lot of different languages being spoken, just in smaller numbers. As far as age, about half of the population is between the ages of 15 and 29, again, having to do with Fort Riley and K-State. 94% have a high school degree or higher, and then more than a bachelor's degree, or at least a bachelor's degree, 45%. And then 20% have a graduate or professional degree, which is pretty impressive. Occupations tend to be in education and retail, a lot of service industry type stuff, but there is a pretty strong construction presence too. And we have an unemployment rate of about 4%. So I think that our school does a really good job with communication. So their website always has good updates. It's very much kept active, and we also have other local websites. And some of these are in conjunction with their radio stations as well. TV is really mostly out of Topeka. We have these local access channels that nobody really watches, but uh, nonetheless. And then newspapers, the Mercury is the town paper, Little Apple Post isn't as popular, and then the K-State Collegian is the university paper. As far as I could tell, there are no alternative language papers available. But I feel again that between the website and Twitter and Facebook, our school does a really good job of keeping parents and the city even up to date. The principal of MHS has a very strong Twitter presence, and I think that's really helpful. If you want to join a community group, you should move to Manhattan. As I was looking through all the available groups, I was pretty overwhelmed. It's a very eclectic mix. But we also have a lot of youth groups. A lot of these are school-based with sports or clubs or student council, but also religious groups, 4-H, etc. As far as others related to the school, there's PTO, there's advisory boards in school board. And then there's city council, and there's advisory boards for the city council. So there is a lot of opportunity for input within Manhattan. Our city leaders are all lifelong, almost, not quite, but longtime residents would be a better way to phrase that. They're longtime residents of Manhattan, and so they're more in tune with the unique issues that we face being a college town and a military town. As far as our school leaders, our superintendent is Bob Shannon. He actually is retiring this year, so a new one was just hired, and his name is Marvin Wade. The president of our Board of Education is Marcia Roselle. The Manhattan High principal is Greg Hoyt, and as I work for Manhattan Virtual, I had to include our principal, and that is Brooke Blank. I think that our leadership has a very good understanding of the unique needs of our community. They are all great communicators, and I've probably never heard so much from a superintendent as I've heard from Bob Shannon. Always trying to keep everybody up to date with what is going on. And just that transparency is really important, and we really do get that with our school leaders. Economic conditions overall are very favorable in Manhattan. There were some issues with getting the state budget done, and so that caused a little bit of panic at K-State. Okay, are these people going to be able to come to work? But that seems to be largely resolved, so K-State is a big employer, and things seem to be going a little bit more smoothly. Fort Riley, also a large draw for Manhattan, and military cuts caused some concern, but Fort Riley has been largely spared of those. And then the newest thing is NBAF, National Bio and Agro Defense Facility, and they are working in conjunction with K-State. For a while, it was unsure about whether or not it was going to actually happen, but as far as I know, the final phase contract was awarded, and it's supposed to bring a lot of jobs to the city. Now, as far as political structure, I mean, as long as schools get money from the government, you cannot separate politics from education. Unions play a large part in this as well. I'm not going to get into that today, but if you are getting money from someone, they are going to be able to dictate what you do. That's just how it works. And so with that, USD 383 did receive over $28 million in general state aid this year. For virtual school, for us, we received about $750,000 to kind of offset some of the funding issues that have been going on in Kansas. There's been big push for the local option budget vote, and it will be, up to the voters to say yes or no, of course. As far as the property tax assessment, the assessment rate we see there, and as well as the mill levy. Socially, sorry about that, guys. Socially, I think it's a pretty peaceful community. I mean, you have your tensions now and then, but they're pretty minor. There's no real gang violence. If they are, they're like wannabe gangsters, so we just kind of ignore them. As far as cliques, you have your normal cliques, but it's really based upon money, like everything else. If you have money, you're in. If not, you're not. As far as discrimination, the most recent issues I've heard of have been from the LGBT community, not being able to get fair access to housing. And the other dispute also involves housing. And so we do see a lot of landlord-tenant disputes because of some substandard housing. And just the price of housing, again, is really ridiculous because students and military drive that up. And so for families starting off, that can be an issue. And we see landlord-tenant disputes oftentimes between students and landlords. But again, students, on the other side of that coin, aren't known for taking the best care of things. So extra sources of information can come from school records, which are kept in our Robinson Education Building, and a lot of information also on the Kansas Department of Education website. Because Manhattan works so closely with K-State as far as student teaching and student aids and all kinds of other stuff, our students at Manhattan schools do get quite a few surveys created by K-State students or professors. So that is definitely an extra source of information. We have minutes from school board meetings. They're emailed to staff, and we're encouraged to read those, and they're always accessible on the school website. So a very transparent and very efficient school board overall. As far as power structures, of course, you have your state government, Board of Education, and superintendent, and it goes down. Our district is very proactive and well prepared for funding changes that may occur, and we know will occur in Kansas. Department heads and different principals were asked to come up with different budgets based upon different scenarios, and they did that. And in that way, they were able to kind of face whatever issues were going to come head on and understand the cuts that they were going to have to make in order to make it work. The only struggle I really see with that, with this, is sometimes traditional teachers, and it's mainly the negotiation team, don't understand what virtual teachers do. And so there's just a lot of ignorance over the differences and qualifications and stuff like that. So multicultural issues, again, we're a very diverse community because of K-State and Fort Riley. The school holds a lot of multicultural events, and so does the community. We are unique in that we have an Indian for our mascot. It was based upon a former football coach, and for most people in the community, it's something to be proud of. We do get some people from outside of the community who want to see that changed, but most of us in the area are pretty supportive of it. There's no uniforms or anything, so that's not really an issue that we'll talk about, but I think just the mission statement of Manhattan is really good in that it talks about a diverse society, and of course one of the goals, it talks about multicultural understanding as well. As far as public opinion, we're going to see what happens with the local option budget vote, And there are also parent surveys, citizen panels, and many advisory boards